and welcome back to the Rogues of the Garage channel. This is episode 7 of Mailcall, where we are collecting cards associated with the Outlaws of Junction set from Magic the Gathering, as well as its expansions or sheets. We've got a few envelopes to open today, so let's get to it. There we go. Open the box. We have multiple cards, it appears. And the first card looks to be the expanded art edition of the Sword and Wealth and Power. From the Big Score expansion or sheet. This is, I believe, my third Sword of Wealth and Power. I believe I now have the standard version. I have the extended raise foil edition. I think it's one of the more expensive cards associated with the set. And now I have the extended art version of the card. Just to kind of review it, it's 3 colorless with an equip of 2. And the equipped creature gets not only a +2/+2, but also protection from instants and sorceries. When the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. The next time you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. So it also has a built-in fork ability, at least what I think of as a fork ability from the old school days of Magic. It's a very nice artifact to add to a lot of decks, really. I think particularly treasure token decks would find added value to it, or with it. Next, we have the Lotus Ring. Indestructible, equipped creature gets +3/+3 in Vigilance, and you can sacrifice that creature to add 3 mana of any one color. It does have an equip cost of 3, so not only are you paying 3 to cast it, but you must pay an additional 3 to equip it to a character. All right. There also feels like there might be multiple cards within these sleeves, so let me start in reverse order. Let's go with the Lotus Ring. So there's multiple here. So after Lotus Ring, Nexus of Becoming. At the beginning of combat on your turn, draw a card. Then you may exile an artifact or creature card from your hand. If you do, create a token that's a copy of the exiled card, except it's a 3/3 Golem artifact creature in addition to its other types. So my first thought is if you have smaller creatures, weaker artifacts, or cheaper artifacts, this is just a way of buffing them, of making them stronger, while also being able to draw a card every turn. So I think chump blocker decks, weenie decks, whatever you'd like to call them, this is a card that you might consider placing in those decks. See, we got a couple of cards turned backwards. All right, we have the extended art version of Transmutation Font. 5 colorless artifact, create a choice of a blood token, clue token, or a food token. So that's nice. You get all 3 possibilities, depending on the decks you're running, if they're a specific token heavy, or if you're just looking to supplement decks with a specific type of tokens. I don't mind taking an extra 3 life every turn, if possible. But you can sacrifice 3 artifact tokens with different names, search your library for an artifact card, and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. I believe I mentioned this with the regular art version of the Transmutation Font. I think this was a card that could play well into artifact decks, or any decks really that rely on artifacts as part of their engine. So, Transmutation Font. And in this sleeve, the last one we have is Old Tech Matter Weaver, the extended art version. It's a 1 white, 2 colorless for a 2/4. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you get to choose one of the following abilities. You create a 1/1 colorless gnome, artifact creature token, or create a token that's a copy of a target artifact token you control. So you're able to get free chump blockers, free artifacts anytime you cast a creature spell. It's a nice creature to have in your deck. 1 white, 2 colors. It's not that expensive. Its abilities, I think, are pretty nice, again, providing you with chump blockers. So, yeah, there's Old Tech Matter Weaver, the extended art form. Going back to the sleeve that had the extended art version of the Sword of Wealth and Power, it feels like there's a card or 2. Yep, 2 cards behind it. The first of which, Seraphic Steed. 1 white, 1 green for a 2/2 first strike lifelink. Whenever the Seraphic Steed attacks while saddled, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. Now, the saddle to me is a bit expensive, but when you're getting a 3/3 flyer every time it attacks, that certainly sweetens the pot. Maybe you've got some mid-level creatures. Heck, maybe even you're willing to spend a 4/4 or what have you. saddling this creature. Those extra flyers, particularly 3/3 flyers, can become handy, and there's so many decks, particularly in Commander, that allow you to just exponentially grow token creatures, or if not exponentially grow them, at least increase their strengths. So yeah, the Seraphic Steed might be something to look at in any decks that you're running white-green. And lastly, the extended art version of the Vault-Born Tyrant. When it comes to the Big Score expansion, this is one of the more pricier cards, variations, much like the Sword of Wealth and Power. This one has multiple variations. Again, it costs 2 green, 5 colorless for a 6/6 with trample. Whenever the Tyrant or another creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, under your control, gain 3 life and draw a card. So that's always a nice little bonus. When the Vault-Born Tyrant dies, if it's not a token, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's an artifact in addition to its other type. So you're essentially getting round 2 with the Vault-Born Tyrant every time that you cast it. Again, I can understand why it's such a sought after card. It would play very well in a lot of green decks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's turn this around to reveal. This is the most expensive card associated with Outlaws of Thunderjunction. It comes from the Breaking News expansion, and it's an extended art. It's a foil extended art of Mana Drain. 2 blue, a counter target spell at the beginning of your next main phase, added an amount of colorless mana equal to that spell's mana value. It's a very nice spell to have in general. Then you get the full art, borderless version of a foil. It's all those combinations add up to it being a rather pricey card. All right, looks like we have Tezzeret, the Seeker. This is going to come from one of the secret layers associated with OTJ. 2 blue, 3 colorless. For a 4 power base Planeswalker, you get a +1 loyalty when you can when you can untap up to 2 target artifacts. You get a -X. You search your library for an artifact card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield to shuffle. And then a -5. Artifacts you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5 until the end of the turn. Obviously, I think this would play well in any artifact-heavy decks or artifact decks, period. I really am interested in the +1 ability. Heck, you don't even need to run artifact decks without that +1 ability. The other 2 abilities aren't terrible. I see them more as situational, but I really like that +1 ability on this character. We have yet another card from the secret lair for Outlaws of Thunderjunction, the Coffin Queen. 1 black, 2 colorless for a 1/1 zombie lord. I asked this in an earlier recording because I don't know the answer. With these playing cards, I believe they're called poker faces, are these simply cosmetic cards? Nice collectible items, or do they have play value? Because if my memory serves me correctly, when I looked at the other poker face cards, they didn't have abilities written on the card. So that leads me to think that these are simply collector's items. I'm not sure you would play them. And if you did play them, does it come with the abilities the card has in every other version? Because these cards do not have a printing of abilities. Either way, I think it's really nice artwork. Nicol Bolas, Planeswalker. 1 red, 2 black, 1 blue, 4 colorless for a 5 power Planeswalker. You get a +3 loyalty to destroy target non-creature permanent. -2, you gain control of target creature. That could be very handy. And then if you somehow get to 9, because it doesn't seem to happen in a lot of the Commander games I play in, but if you somehow get him to a +9 loyalty and want to take that shot, he deals 7 damage to target player or Planeswalker. That player or that Planeswalker controller discards 7 cards and sacrifices 7 permanents. That is pretty nasty. I don't see that ever coming to fruition, at least amongst my friends. I think that would make Nicol Bolas a target, a major target. But if you somehow get to that point, you could really anger an opponent at the table. And the last card for today's mail call. Feels like the card's down here. So let me try and, oh. Then we have, all right, the extended art version of 3 Steps Ahead. 1 blue, instant with a spree, so it's going to actually cost you more than just 1 blue. The first spree ability is an extra blue and extra colorless. You counter target spell, so for 3 mana, it's a counter spell. It feels a bit expensive, but again, depending on what you're countering, it would be well worth it. For an extra 3 colorless, create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control. Now that sounds very appealing, depending on what you have on your board. And then for a +2 colorless, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Again, not bad. You're looking at a total cost, if you try to do all 3 of these, it's 5, 6 colorless, and 2. So 8 mana could get you a counter spell, a token that's a copy of something you already control, and allow you to draw 2 cards in this and then discard. I don't think that is a terrible cost for all those abilities. Again, this is the extended art version of 3 Steps Ahead. And ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for today's mail call. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.